Hello everyone, I'm Rupesh Bhatia. I'm a Salesforce architect by trade and lead the architect community at one of the leading global consulting firms based out of Mumbai. I'm a Salesforce MVP since 2019 and very much passionate about building the right mindset. I honestly believe in the right mindset will lead you to an elevated success on your career path, whether it is admin, whether it's development, whether it's architecture. Hence, I've carved out content around how to build consulting mindset and delivered that content across the Indian Salesforce community under the brand name of P2C. And just recently, we've launched something around how to build your architect mindset, and it will be launched under the brand name of P2A, where how consultants can now drive to become architects by developing this mindset. On the personal front, I am based out of Mumbai, having a wife and two kids along with my parents, born and brought up in Mumbai. So that's pretty much about me. Over to you, Kati.
Wonderful. I'm sure everyone is excited. We have Salesforce MVP Rupesh Bhatia with us. I am Khyati Mehta, host of this awesome podcast, and will hear the stories and insights from the man himself. There, Rupesh mentioning about his wonderful journey and achievements and the wonderful campaigns that we're going to be talking about. So today, we sit down with him and take away all the tips and tricks about everything Salesforce. So, Rupesh, let's start from the very start. How did you start your career in Salesforce?
So it started way back in 2010 when I was contemplating how to get into a technology space where there is, I would say, less of a competitive marketplace, right? I
Mhm.
was operating as a team lead on a .NET tech platform, and I did that leap of faith to get into something where I was hired by a company to get cross trained into a different ERP product.
Mhm.
Uh, Ultimately, they asked me to sign up for a 2-year bond because they were training me on this exclusive product. I took that challenge and I got myself into it. After initial 1 month of training, they had assigned me a project to work on that technology. However, the project work didn't excited me because I was not getting a real hands-on exposure to what that product is all about. How can I really implement it? How am I solving customer's problem by using that product? Now, when I raised this to my immediate lead, they came back with an option to explore something like Salesforce, and that was the first time when I heard about it. Now, obviously, this company didn't had anyone who had worked earlier on Salesforce, so were they have asked me to explore it on my own and come up with findings or come up with a learning path where we can get more people into Salesforce. So, with that whole construct and the constraint that I cannot leave this firm for the next 2 years, I said, let me accept that as a challenge. I went on into my network looking out for Salesforce information. To be honest, back in 2010, there was no trailhead, so there was no
Hmm.
content available easily online, right, where I can just go in and access.
Right.
But to my luck, I found online recorded versions of a Salesforce in-person classroom trainings,
Mhm.
and I downloaded all those 26 odd videos and I started going through those videos second by second, taking down my dev notes and going through each and every concept in detail. I also got hands on to the fundamentals book, which was an ebook I downloaded from Google. And I started going through the entire recruiting application, started getting my hands dirty on a DevOps, right?
Mhm.
That's how I started building my entire thing into Salesforce. After 3 months of self learning, I attempted my first certification, Dev 401. And yeah, since then it's been a roller coaster ride. I've worked with multiple companies, multiple clients, multiple team members. It's been a one fun, exciting ride till now.
I'm sure you're enjoying this ride, and we are so grateful that you are with us in our community. So, as you said, that you have taken this leap of faith, and there are, I'm sure there are many viewers or listeners of us who are going through this journey, who are afraid of taking this leap of faith or afraid to cross train in Salesforce. So, what advices would you give to them?
Yeah, I think it all boils down to three things in my mind, right? When I was about to do this, one is fear of failure, right? I think if you're confident in yourself, there's conviction in what you're trying to do. I think that fear of failure will go away as long as you're very comfortable or very passionate about getting into something, right?
Right,
So if you're trying out something new, my advice would be to just give yourself enough time where you explore things, you get your hands dirty, give yourself at least 3 months, 6 months, so that you assess the new technology or the new product that you're getting into in a detailed way before you say no to something, right? What happens is with the fear of failure, there is an immediate reaction that I cannot do this or I don't want to do this, right? So that's one. Second is I think networking, right? When I was starting on Salesforce and there was no single person around me who knew Salesforce, I started reaching out to people within my own network, within the company where I was working for, and
hmm,
I was able to connect the dots with people who have actually played the role of a developer or an admin. Let's say even if it was like a single person working on a project, I used to go and talk to that person on what all things the person is doing on the project, right? So I
right,
think networking really helps, and that's where this community is, Salesforce Trailblazer community is there for you to help in all of those areas.
mm,
Tap into your local community, tap into your own personal network, and just listen out them, right? My personal principle in my own career is wherever I'm stuck, I will go and ask to 10 different people who
mm,
are expert in their areas. However, whenever I listen to them, I will make my notes, but I will take my own decision. So I take complete ownership of my own decisions, whether I'm doing that for myself, because whether you succeed or fail in that decision, it's your own decision, not because these 10 folks would have advised me or guided me on that one. So it's
right,
okay to take advices and hear out people on their own experiences, but I think we have to process that information for ourselves and take the right decisions. It may be the right one or the wrong one, but I think we'll have to own up that decision. And the ownership quality is something which will allow you to elevate yourself as a professional in your careers as well. So that was around the networking. First one was around the fear of failure. And third is I think you should enjoy the new world that you're getting into, right?
right,
If you're forced to get into something, probably you'll not enjoy that as much as, right? When I started in Salesforce, I really enjoyed because I was coming from a .NET background. I knew how to develop a web page, how much amount of coding that used to go into developing a page on
mm,
a .NET platform versus on a Salesforce, right?
right,
I can do that within a matter of few minutes, few hours, right? But just through click and configuration and really apply code wherever it is really required, right? So that was for me a big winner, and that really made me cling to this platform and make a career out of it.
so true. Networking and asking questions, like these are the best advices you can give out. So, initially, like you were into development, but then you switched to consultant. So, how does this transition come suddenly, or how did you realize that consultant path is for you?
So to be honest, I didn't made a conscious decision. Let's say I'll now leave development, I'll get into consulting, right? I think that's where in my whole series of developing a consulting mindset, I talk about three things. One is continuous acquisition of knowledge. So what I did in my career throughout is I was always on the hunt of learning more, right?
Mhm.
Whether I've learned enough of the Salesforce fundamentals, I would go and understand what a sales cloud would mean or what a service cloud features are meant for. How
Mm,
do I expand my knowledge in community cloud or the experience cloud for now, right? Always in the quest of understanding more what the platform offers, whether it is in depth into one cloud or getting into adjacent areas and building on my breadth across the ecosystem. So that's one area, acquisition of knowledge or continuous learning. Second was for me application of that knowledge. I can gain as much as knowledge possible through certifications, through learning, But unless I'm able to apply that knowledge in solving somebody's problem, I'm not doing justice to that knowledge, right? So that's another area which I think will allow you to set yourself for becoming a consultant, because one of the most important traits of a consultant would be to listen out to customers' problem and recommend a solution on that problem, right? So you
Right.
need to have the right knowledge so that you are able to provide the right solution or design to a problem statement that might be thrown at you. The third is, how do you express yourself while suggesting a solution, or while just having a conversation within your own team members or with your onshore teams or directly with the client stakeholders. I think communication is the core part which will allow you to get into something, right? Whether it is into the architect mindset, whether it is into the consulting mindset, it's the communication ability to express yourself in the most simplified manner, where whatever is in your mind, you're able to pass that on to your end, to the audience with whom you are communicating. I think that's really important. So for me, it's knowledge, application of that knowledge, and communication that allowed me to play the role of a consultant. And as I said, I didn't make that switch on one day.
Mm.
So when I was with this company where I got into Salesforce, I was looking for a bigger project for myself. I was actually thrown into a project where there was an existing team who was supporting the legacy CRM from last 5 years, right? And the client decided that they want to move into Salesforce. The company didn't had anyone who knew Salesforce. I was thrown into that team, so
Mm-hmm.
I had a double hat to play over there, where I was in charge of training the entire 15-member team into Salesforce.
Mm-hmm.
Now, myself, I was a newbie to Salesforce, but I did the most out of it by my notes, where I was going through those recorded sessions when I was preparing for my Dev 401. So I took those notes, put them into a PPT, got into a trainer role every morning. 10 to 12 I used to train them, and then from 12 onwards we used to work on that project where we did the Salesforce implementation work. So that really got me into all of this, right?
Mm-hmm.
Knowledge acquisition, applying that knowledge so that I'm really trying to solve a problem statement which we are moving from a legacy CRM to a new Salesforce platform, right?
Mm-hmm.
And third was communication, because I had to communicate a lot, not just with my own team. I had to communicate with the onshore team. I had to communicate directly with the client teams, right? So all of this exposure will really set you on the path of becoming a true consultant, right? And what are the traits? It's these three traits which I will always advocate for. You don't have to look for a title to become a consultant. You have to just start practicing these traits on your day-to-day job so that you think like a consultant when you're even delivering a role as a developer.
Right. So, talking about this development to consultant path and all this transition, we all know that you run this wonderful campaigns D2C and C2A, as you said. Do you want to throw any light on how this campaign could help anyone out there who does not know about this?
Yeah, so these campaigns are experiences which I have had in my own careers, right? When I look back in my last 16 years of IT journey, I think there are traits which I have followed, not intentionally. I think over the years I picked up those traits,
Mm-hmm.
and I think I've been fairly successful where I am today based on those traits that I followed, right? So I want to give back to this community, share nuances which will help them in their careers to think in a right way. I think we end up having a lot of clutter in our own minds when we think about too many things when we are trying to work out in our career.
Right.
I think with the clarity of mind is what people would get out of this content. And the real content that I deliver is, first is why consulting mindset is important. So I just explained why you should think about like a consultant and what are the traits and how you can start thinking like that. So that's number one. Second is thinking like a consultant is one thing, right? But how do you uh, get yourself in front of the customer or in front of your onshore team? People always complain in my own personal network that we don't get enough opportunities. I have a very different perspective to that, right? You have to create your own opportunities before you say that there are not enough opportunities. And the way I created opportunities for myself was through networking, by asking more questions, being curious about something, right? You have to just express yourself for the opportunities to open up, right? I
Right.
think that's where I focus on. One is, how do you create those opportunities for yourself? Second was, a lot of people who are in India, right, do not get these client facing roles directly, or do not get enough opportunities to work, let's say something like a pre-sales,
Right.
right? And I have done a lot of pre-sales work all throughout my career. I would say it's 50% pre-sales, 50% delivery work that I've done over the years.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's a lot to learn when you're delivering pre-sales, where you're responding to a pursuit or a proposal within, let's say, 48 hours or 72 hours or within a week, right? You're looking at a requirement statement or a requirement document, and then coming up with a solution on the fly with all these justifications. You're trying to put up a pricing model. You're trying to do an estimation. You're trying to ensure that the delivery of that project would be done in a right way. So you're thinking lot of things in a very short span of time. I
Mm-hmm.
think that whole experience will give you a lot to learn. And I have a session on pre-sales life cycle. What all things you can learn out of a pre-sales cycle. I think that's very important for all of our developers, admins based out of India to just go through that content. It will help them a lot to understand what really happens before a project comes to them, right?
Right.
How you really go out there in the market and win a project for your company or for your team. So that's another area. Third area is the entire delivery cycle. End-to-end implementation work has
Mm.
so many different cogs in a wheel. We as developers or admins are focused just on the user story or the sprint that we are operating on, right? But
Right.
there is a lot that goes out in parallel, right from your user requirement gathering, right through your design sessions, right through your user or user story grooming sessions, parallel build activities by multiple teams. There's a parallel testing activities which is happening. There's a CI/CD in place which will ensure that your code is getting promoted to higher environment. There's a parallel testing cycle happening in the higher environment. Then there is a cycle of UAT where you are actually getting it in front of your actual users, like a set of users, and asking them to validate whatever you have developed. There's a user training angle to it, right? There's a change management aspect to it. So there's a lot that goes out in an end-to-end implementation. And I think we as developers or as admins need to have that broader understanding in the landscape in which we operate in. And I take immense proud in my own career, right? That I'm here to create an impact for some on somebody's life who's going to use the application which I am developing, designing for them, right? I
Right.
think it's a mindset shift on how we look our role as a developer or as an admin. If you start elevating your thought process, that you're looking at the bigger picture, you're looking at the impact that you're creating, I think it will help you which way you are heading towards, right? You'll give yourself a lot more self importance. Your skills needs to be valued, right? So a
Mm-hmm.
lot of these things will come up with this elevated thought process and looking at the bigger picture rather than just focusing on your own task that has been given to you to solve for the day, right?
Right.
So that's really I would focus on.
So anyone out there who's looking out for this consulting architect of pre-sales tips and traits, go ahead and check out this D2C and C2A campaigns and the pre-sales campaigns that Rupesh has, built. It's gonna build your mindset, right? It's gonna give you the best tips and traits that you would need to build your career in those paths. So, Rupesh, talking about these campaigns that you have been wonderfully designed from your experience and giving back wonderfully in this ecosystem, we know that you have been working for so long. So, do you see any changes in today's environment or the ecosystem?
Lot of changes, to be honest, Kathy. Uh, right from when I started, like there was no accessibility to information directly. You'll have
Right.
to really work your way towards that information.
That was a
I
big
think,
job.
yeah, till now, right, where there is lot of information available, there's abundance of information, but right now the problem statement that we have in the community is like how to get to the right information, right?
Right.
And
Right.
that's why you need this networking. That's why you need to ask questions. That's why you need to connect with people around you, right?
Right.
So there's a lot of information available right now versus there was scarcity of information. However, I think there is this, we are getting a lot of people who are new to the ecosystem, right? We are getting a lot of entry level workforce into the system
Right.
through trailheads, through certifications. We are getting thousands and hundreds of people to get into the Salesforce ecosystem. But I think uh, we also need to think about when people get into the ecosystem after 2 years, 3 years, 4 years down the line, what is their career path for, let's say, next 10 years, next 15 years? How are they going to shape up their career, right? And that's the problem statement I'm trying to solve with my campaigns around D2C and C2A, right? How do you take care of yourself once you're part of the ecosystem? I think many experienced folks in the ecosystem need to come out and speak about their experiences so that people can learn from them and understand what it takes to become an architect, or understand what it takes to become a business analyst, right? Or what it takes to become a project manager, for that matter. So I see a lot of opportunity even today where we need to do a very good job of all the experienced folks out there come out to this community and share your knowledge. It need not be always technical. Your small traits that you're following on your day-to-day job will help someone to
Right.
become a better professional in their career. So I think that's the lens we need to apply on this community so that we can become better together.
Right. Talking about this power of community, we all know that, there is a different power that we have in the community. We can talk to anyone around the community. We can share our knowledge, as you said. We can share our achievements. We can ask silly questions if needed. So, what all advices, or how can a newcomer or anyone that does not know about how and what the community is and how does it work? So, what advices would you like to give it to a newcomer who can, leverage the power of a community?
So first of all, there's a site called trailblazercommunitygroups.com. You can go to that site. You can look up for the local community groups that are within your own region and sign up for them. So whenever they are hosting a new session or an event, there will be an email notification out there to you. But I look at this community concept, right? Not talking about the Trailblazer community, but the community in general as a concept. I think it exists everywhere around us, right? So when I started, till 2016, I was not aware of the Trailblazer community. But the way I used to operate is within my project team, within the people in my own personal network, I used to treat them as my own community, right? And
Right,
I used to do a lot of public talking, lot of uh, brainstorming sessions with them. So it's the lens which you put on these things, right?
right,
Community begins with yourself and the people around you, whether it is your own project team members, whether it is your own set of friends that you're with whom you daily converse with, right? It
right,
begins with that, and how much you express yourself will allow you to become a better community member, right?
right,
Start with those small things, and then obviously you can tap into the Trailblazer community, which is a collective brain power of hundreds and millions of people across the globe, right? You can have platforms from your local community group to getting into, let's say, community groups across India, to getting into community groups, let's say, across the globe, right? Tap into community conferences which happens across the globe, right? There are multiple avenues which will give you that platform for you to express yourself, right? I think, as I said earlier, right, there's a lot of clutter in our minds. We don't get that clarity, and we are always having those questions, right? So
right.
ask more questions, be curious, and you'll find the right answers as long as you are within that community and asking those questions.
Right. So, as you said, like there are many people, even in my area in Kolkata, there were so many who did not know about how and what the community is. First thing, for all the newcomers, I would highly suggest that go ahead and search out the local community, because I'm sure like every place has a community nearby, and they are running sessions. They have this local sessions on every topic that you can also suggest. So there would be a lot of people who you can talk to, who you can meet, and meeting one to one and talking one to one is a different power and a different satisfaction that you'll get to start or kickstart your career. So
Absolutely. I'll
Right.
just add one point over there, Kathy.
Yeah.
So for people who are getting into the ecosystem, right? Specifically for the cohort where they are already an expert in, let's say, one particular technology or one particular domain, and they are trying to learn something new like Salesforce. I would say for the initial 6 months, leave away your expertise and look at Salesforce from a fresher's perspective, where you're learning something new for the first time. And then once you have understood the fundamentals of the basics, that's when you bring in your expertise from domains or from another technology to your usage or to your advantage of how I can apply it to the Salesforce world.
Right. So apart from this, we all know, Rupesh, I have received the title of Salesforce MVP, and that too 4 times in a row. So how does it feel? How does it make you feel? Like, does it come with any responsibilities, or how does it go?
So yes and a no to that question, Kathy. The reason I say yes is because when you are an MVP or the title is assigned to your name, right? There are a lot of people who look up to you as your role model, right?
Right. Right.
You get that as an influencer out there in the community. Any action that you take, any kind of session that you do in the community or in the public forum,
Hmm.
people will look up to you and assign your words as an MVP's word, right? So there's a lot of responsibility on that front. So today we are doing a session. Lot of your audience will see that this is not Rupesh Bhatia who's talking. This is a Salesforce MVP who's talking, right? So there is responsibility on that aspect on how do we conduct and what kind of messaging we are doing for the community, and people are going to take your words as an MVP word.
Right.
However, what I do in my individual capacity of giving back to the community, right, where I run these campaigns around D2C and C2A, will that change with this title? Probably not, right? That
Right.
doesn't have any influence on how do I operate on giving back to the broader community.
Hmm.
Whether I would have been doing these campaigns, irrespective whether I was given this title in the past or in the current, I would have absolutely went ahead and shared my knowledge, right?
Right.
If tomorrow, if I'm not an MVP anymore, right? Let's consider that case. I would still be doing these kind of sessions, right? So
Right.
what you do to give back to the community has no impact or no influence directly with this title, but how do you conduct yourself in the public space and the kind of influence that you can have on people, I think that is something which is it's the power of the title, right? Not us as individuals. I think the brand of MVP is so big where people would like to listen, right, and get influenced by what people are talking about.
Wonderfully explained and said. MVP or not, just go ahead, share your knowledge, ask questions, and just enjoy the journey that you are in. Awesome. Thank you for the advice. That's our show. Now, before we go, last question to you, Rupesh. Describe Salesforce community in one word.
I would say Trailheart.
That's a unique word.
Yeah, because see, taking out time from your own busy schedule, right? Your own personal schedule, your family, friends, work, your own self well-being, right?
Right.
And spending time with a group of people, right, with whom you are just connected through the community takes a lot of trail heart, right?
Right.
Uh,
I
and
agree.
we have discussed throughout this session today that people who are getting into this ecosystem, people who are already there, right?
Right.
Networking, reaching out, it all takes time, right? And time is valuable in these age and times. So I think whoever is doing that across the community, my big salute and a trail heart to everyone. And trail heart to you, Kathy, as well, for doing this wonderful podcast, giving out time from your own personal time to this community. Really appreciate that a lot with anyone who's doing that in the community.
Thank you so much, Rupesh. And thanks for being the wonderful guest today and sharing your journey with us. I thank you all for listening. See you all at the next podcast.